There is a legal mechanism for changing past law. It's called a rescission. And there's an illegal way. It's called an impoundment. Will you send a rescission message to Congress, or will you use the illegal impoundment strategy?
Senator, thanks for the question. Those EOs were, again, pauses to ensure that the funding that is in place is consistent and moves in a direction along the lines of what the president ran on, unleashing American energy away from the Green New Deal. The
Rescissions or impoundments? Which strategy will you use? That's a simple question.
There's a section in those EOs that says that the Office of Legislative Affairs will work with the Office of Management and Budget. They may put forward rescissions, but again, the language of the EO says required by law, and it is meant to do a programmatic delay to figure out what are the best ways to make sure that the funding is shifted.
Thank you. I'll just note that you are not willing to say that you will use rescissions, the legal method, rather than the illegal method. That is a big concern for all of us here, because the Constitution laid out the vision that Congress makes the law, not the president. So the fact that you continue to advocate for this impoundment strategy, that is completely in violation of our Constitution, and I'm deeply disturbed that you will not renounce that today.
And Mr. Vought, your written response when pressed on this, that you will follow the advice of the incoming OMB General Counsel, Mark Paoletta, someone who has called the Impoundment Control Act a stupid law, and recently tweeted at you to impound, baby, impound is a bit rich. Will you, if confirmed, as director, faithfully follow the law, the Impoundment Control Act, yes or no?
Senator, we will faithfully uphold the law. The president ran on the notion that the Impoundment Control Act is unconstitutional. I agree with that.
Has the impoundment law ever been said to be unconstitutional by a court of law?
Not to my knowledge,
Senator, it has not. So it is the law of the land. I don't care what the president said when he was running. It is the law of the land. So will you follow that law if you are confirmed to this office?
Senator, the president and his team is going to go through a review with our lawyers, if confirmed, including the Department of Justice, to explore the parameters of the law with regard to the Impoundment Control Act. He hasn't developed a strategy that he's announced as it pertains to how he would approach it. There are pieces of legislation that have been proposed by members of this committee.
We propose legislation all the time. If the rule of the law in a state is that it's a 50-mile-an-hour speed limit, you can't just say, well, I think that's irresponsible and I'm going to challenge it, so therefore I don't have to follow it. The impoundment law is the law. Will you follow it or not? You can say that we're going to look at it and might challenge it in court, but it is the law today. Will you follow that law as director?
Senator, the reason why the president ran on this is that 200 years of presidents had this
You're
authority
telling me why you don't agree with the
taxpayer
law, but the
resources.
law is the law. Will you follow the law?
And what he found in the first term was that we had agencies that would push out spending at the end of the fiscal year.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to take my time back for a minute and just tell all of us. We work all the time on appropriations where I am ranking member to come to an agreement. Senator Graham, you and I work on agreements and we decide, yeah, okay, we'll both vote for this. We have an agreement. How can we ever have an agreement in the future if a president, whoever he or her may be in the future, has say over that, saying, never mind, I'm not going to pay for this part of it. We have to have agreements. It is the law of the land. And I have to say that your answer to this should be disconcerting to every single member on this committee.
Now, I listened very carefully to the exchange you had with Senator Murray, and you had a very clear opportunity to say, yes, you will comply with the Impoundment Control Act. I didn't hear you say that, so just to give you another chance, will you comply with the Impoundment Control Act?
Senator, the president ran against the Impoundment Control Act.
This is, Mr. Vought, I know what the president did. He wants to change lots of things. He can submit legislation to do that. But you are going to be the head of OMB, and here today at this hearing, you're refusing to commit to comply with the Impoundment Control Act. Is that right? Are you refusing to commit to complying?
Senator, the administration has to go through a policy process to understand the legal parameters for operating in the ICA.
Okay, I'm going to reclaim my time. I'm sorry. I was just, it seems that complying with the current law, even if you disagree with it, would result in a clear answer, yes, I will comply with the current law, including the Impoundment Control Act.
Mr. Vought, you were at the center of the strategy of impounding funds. Now, we had this conversation in 1974 here in Congress. We passed the Budget and Impoundment Control Act because Congress said, when we say this amount of money should be spent on this program, it isn't up to the president to spend less. But you told me in your office that you're quite comfortable assuming that the law doesn't matter and that you'll just treat the money for a program as a ceiling rather than a required amount. Well, the courts have found otherwise, but the fact that you're willing to say this is exactly what you plan to do again should trouble every single member of the Senate.